Hello, hello. Check 1 2. Okay.
Hello, 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 mic check. Hello, hello.
We now know that the resultant damage caused by human impact on this planet's environment is climate change. This process is accelerating. The Earth is increasingly suffering from climate extremes. This planet is either too hot, due to heat waves, on fire, or drowning from floods. For many years now, climate change activists and concerned scientific bodies have been collectively beating the drum with the same incessant message. However, many prominent scientists and concerned people have also been saying that we will not properly tackle climate change unless we also address the problem of global overpopulation. But we firstly need to know by how much we need to reduce our global population in order to establish a balance which is sustainable on Earth. In order to answer these and many other related questions, we need to know the amount of natural resources each of us requires in order to survive and prosper. The United Nations has been collecting records for more than half a century in order to calculate two major annual figures. Our inputs, i.e. what the Earth can regenerate from the sun's energy, i.e. the biocapacity of the Earth, and our outputs. We now know that the resultant damage caused by human impact on this planet's environment is climate change. This process is accelerating. The Earth is increasingly suffering from climate extremes. This planet is either too hot, due to heat waves, on fire, or drowning from floods. For many years now, climate change activists and concerned scientific bodies have been collectively beating the drum with the same incessant message. However, many prominent scientists and concerned people have also been saying that we will not properly tackle climate change unless we also address the problem of global overpopulation. But we firstly need to know by how much we need to reduce our global population in order to establish a balance which is sustainable on Earth. In order to answer these and many other related questions, we need to know the amount of natural resources each of us requires in order to survive and prosper. The United Nations has been collecting records for more than half a century in order to calculate two major annual figures. Our inputs, i.e. what the Earth can regenerate from the Sun's energy, i.e. the biocapacity of the Earth, and our outputs, what we consume each year, termed our ecological footprint. It is like a very simple equation. On the one side, the Earth's sustainable natural resource production, i.e. agriculture, forestry or air quality, a term known as biocapacity, and on the other side of the equation, what we collectively or individually consume. This includes everything from dietary requirements, space for buildings, the energy we need in order to thrive, and all the other Earth's natural resources we consume, a term known as ecological footprint. The United Nations and governments have enough information with which to give us a clear picture on the state of the planet today. We also have a good idea as to how many people can live on this planet sustainably. We know this because if we plot the Earth's total biocapacity against its total ecological footprint, the lines cross in the early 1970s, when the population of this Earth was 3.75 billion. This figure of 3.75 billion indicates that the world would currently need to reduce its population by half in order to re-establish a harmonious balance with its environment. The reasons why government have been slow to recognize the contribution that overpopulation has played in bringing about our planetary imbalance are multifold, but here are just two reasons to start with. Firstly, there are the over-optimists who would like us to believe that if we cut carbon emissions, the world will return to its sustainable state, and then we would not worry ourselves about population numbers. The population problem, they believe, would simply go away. It is true that cutting large chunks of global greenhouse emissions may be possible, but this may be difficult to attain in the short term, especially as the global population could increase to between 10 billion and 12 billion before it stabilizes. Secondly, the them and us differences on this Earth, i.e. the inequality of the distribution of global wealth. This is a major stumbling block. Rich European, Arab and American countries exert a far greater ecological footprint than any indigenous Indian or a person from Somali. If we don't seriously address this blatant inequality in life prospects, this will lead to envy and often ends up in a lot of fighting. If we are all to become rich, then this Earth would seriously have a problem. This planet could not, with its 7.8 billion, provide a high standard of living for everyone without creating
We've done a lot since 90s when compulsory education happened there. After a few years, many of us are hoping that the very term good quality education will mean environmental education. Education which is sensitive to the issues which the globe is facing.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the inaugural session of the most awaited International Conference on Sustainable Education 2023. First and foremost, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude and thanks to Dr. Ram Boj, the CEO of Mobius Foundation and the convener of ICSE, for the remarkable invitation and allowing me the privilege of addressing this important event. So this is my second time attending this conference, and I must say ICSE 2022 was a huge success. So yeah, we all serve one mission, and that's protecting and preserving the environment and also, most importantly, the planet Earth. So let's join hands once again to sensitize the global community about the pressing issues that affect not only our planet but also the very future of our environment. So International Conference on Sustainability Education, ICSE 2023, focuses on integrating sustainability principles and practices into education at all levels, most importantly throughout the curriculum. Today we live in a time where approximately 64 million primary school children aged remain out of school, with the majority of them coming from marginalized groups. So as higher education institutions produce tomorrow's leaders and professionals, it is important that these institutions not only raise awareness on sustainability in students, but also equip them with the powerful knowledge of sustainability, skills, values that they can apply in their professional and personal lives as well. So knowledge includes the theories, models, and principles needed to make informed decisions. Skills include the strategic thinking, systems thinking, and planning and design thinking needed to solve complex and extremely difficult problems, collaborating and contextually. So the values provide the necessary ethical, reasoning, and humanistic principles needed to apply the knowledge and skills humanely and equitably. This year, under the overarching theme of Educating for Climate Action and Sustainability, ICSE 2023 embarks on yet another crucial journey which aims to forge the path towards a greener, more sustainable world for generations to come. So thank you, all of you, for being part of this imperative conversation. So before beginning the session, I think you must have witnessed some of the clips of last time's ICSE 2022. So we'll just have another look at the throwback of ICSE 2022, and then my co-host, Ms. Nidhi, is awaiting for the to continue the session with y'all. So yeah, let's move on to the video, and Ms. Nidhi, she will take through the session once the video is played. Thank you. Those, ladies and gentlemen, were the highlights of ICSE 2022, which was successfully held. So thank you so much, and over to you, Ms. Nidhi.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and a good morning and a very hearty welcome of all of you to the 5th International Conference on Sustainability Education. For half a decade now, spanning 5 impactful conferences, ICSE has played a pivotal role in sensitizing the global community about the pressing issues that demand our collective attention and action. And now, but before we commence with our official program, I would be requesting our dignitaries and our chief guest to join us for the lamp lighting ceremony. I would be requesting our chief guest, Mr. Atul Bagai, the country head of UNEP India, to please join us for the ceremony. I also request our other dignitaries, Dr. Rambuj, Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai, Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi, Ms. Donna Goodman, Mr. Praveen Garg, Mr. Pradeep Burman, to please join for the auspicious lamp lighting ceremony. Also, today is a very, very auspicious day, as today is Ganesh Chaturthi. It is a Hindu festival celebrated in the honor of Lord Ganesha. Lord Ganesha, as we all know, is the remover of obstacles, the god of wisdom, and the patron of arts and sciences. So may Lord Ganesha keep our life enlightened and happy and blessed.
वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा। वक्रतुण्ड महाकाय सूर्यकोटि समप्रभ निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा।
Thank you so much, our honorable guests. Now we have a very special treat in store for all of you. We have students from Gyan Anand Vidyalaya who will present a very heart-welcoming song, which will be indeed a moment for us to invoke blessings and guidance for the occasion. I would be requesting all the students to please come on the stage for their performance. Can we have a great round of applause for all these students who are here for us? Thank you so much. Well, wasn't that a very splendid performance? Can we once again have a great round of applause for these lovely kids who sang so beautifully for us? And keeping this positive energy resonating from this song in our hearts, I would now take this opportunity to invite Dr. Ram Bhuj, a well-known scholar who has coordinated several worldwide educational events. He has also headed the UNESCO Science Program and co-founded the World Ocean Network, and is also currently serving as the CEO of Mobius Foundation and the convener of ICSE, to extend a warm welcome to our esteemed guests and give us a brief introduction about what this conference is going to be all about. So once again, a great round of applause for Dr. Ram Bhuj.
Thank you, Nidhi. Most respected Mr. Pradeep Berman, Chairman of this session as well as Chairman Mobius Foundation, Sri Atul Bagai, Chief Guest, respected Sri Anil Prakash Joshi, Sri Kartikeya Sarabhai, Dr. Donna Goodman, our colleague, Mr. Praveen Garg, President, Mobius Foundation, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I think it was really a very enthralling performance by school children from Gyan Anant Vidyalaya, founded by the vision of Mr. Pradeep Burman in the rural areas of Uttar Pradesh, in a village, Thrawli, close to Ghaziabad district of Delhi. I think that has already set the tone. On behalf of the foundation and all the partners, some 36 partners to this international conference, I extend a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. This is really a momentous occasion as we are embarking on journey continuously for the 5th year, the 5th ICSE. It's really a very significant milestone for all of us, those who want to use education to further the sustainability agenda, which is, of course, we all are concerned about the sustainability of our planet, Earth, and role of education is so crucial, so important, which is often not recognized properly. And thanks to the great vision of Mr. Pradeep Burman, who in fact his only aim for setting up this Mobius Foundation was, he said, when I met him first, he said he has set up this foundation for the sole objective of advancing quality education, and the other one is population stabilization. So ICSE in its journey since 2019 has been relentlessly pursuing this agenda. I'm really grateful to you, sir, for this vision, the mission, and passion with which we all are coming here together, not only from India and South Asia, but many parts of the world. And this is truly an international scenario to advance the sustainability agenda, and that too through education. Atul Bagai is a good friend. We have been in working with him, particularly I am since his days when he was heading some of the districts in Uttar Pradesh. I was also with the government, but environment is core to his heart, and since almost more than a decade he is spearheading the United Nations Environment Program, the sole agency in the UN system for furthering agenda and ensuring planetary sustainability. So welcome to you, sir. Very warm welcome. Anil Prakash Joshi, I think he doesn't need any introduction. Mountain man, in famous Amitabh Bachchan's Kaun Banega Crorepati, that show, he was one of the leaders whom he chose to speak about sustainability, particularly Himalayan environment. So he has been bestowed with so many honors and awards. So welcome to you, sir. Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, in fact, we have been working since last, I think, over 3 decades together. In fact, I would give him all the credit to him to not only this country, but globally, environment education and sustainability agenda. In fact, he is the leader, global leader, and I'm so fortunate to work with him for almost 15 years and continuing that association, and really truly grateful that he is heading this the technical advisory committee of this conference. Whatever you see, that the technical details and the variety of sessions, thanks to Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai. In fact, recently India launched the Chandrayaan on the moon, and it was his father's vision. That's Vikram lander, which landed for the first time on the other side of the moon. That was a historical moment globally. And Mr. Sarabhai gave a speech about whether in some of the channels, TV channels, whether he spoke about, of course, this space research, but linked it to the planetary sustainability. And that was so beautifully, I think everywhere he tries to advocate the cause, the passion that he has. Donna Goodman, she was from the very beginning, 2019, and of course she is a UN veteran, very prolific writer, particularly for children, associated with so many global movements for the sustainability, particularly in the case of children and the youth. So most welcome, Donna. My colleague, Shri Praveen Garg, he is from the Indian Administrative Service, and we are really fortunate to have him with us. He was with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change for over 3 years, but he has vast experience traveling through the central India, and then in the capital, looking after many aspects of administrative services, and where his link with the policy making, and that is going to enrich us, and his insight into some of the programs that you see, particularly thematic sessions, is very valuable. Thank you so much, sir, to be here. I think we have a plethora of dignitaries from all over the world, from US, from Europe, from Australia, Japan, in fact Africa this time, which is basically sustainability hotspot, you can say, climate hotspot, is very much represented, of course, from UNEP headquarters, Nairobi. Sam is here, many of you will meet him. And there is Professor Rajiv Pandey from Civil Services University of Ethiopia. He has contributed a paper along with another colleague. There are 3 dignitaries from Nigeria, and some many other corners of the world. We have distinguished delegates, speakers, panelists, and thematically this time we have 18 thematic sessions, and some of these sessions are very interesting. One of the sessions is on life, the Modi's, our Prime Minister Modi's pet, this climate adaptation program, Lifestyle for Environment, that is being curated by Terry. Terry is our very valuable partner. Unfortunately, is Director General. She has to travel to New York for another meeting, but many of her colleagues are there. They will be in their sessions. It's a very interesting session on life. We have another session which is going to curate around 100 startups, sustainability startups. So you will all come to know. I'm not going to stand here because we have many dignitaries. I will extend all of you very enriching sessions, very exciting, and we have some of the very passionate sustainability crusaders, educators, and professionals. Make use of your time, networking, building alliances, projects, partnerships. That is the opportunity, and let us all sustainability education professionals join together. Let us not make the others feel that, oh, education comes at the last. Rather, it's one of the priorities. Number one, education, education, education. And that is the only solution to bring in sustainability and planetary sustainability and stability, and really can ensure meaningful climate action. Thank you so much, each one of you. Thank you so much. Very warm welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for your address. We are honored to present a very special video message from the renowned Dr. Jane Goodall, who's DBE and also the founder of the Jane Goodall Institute and UN Messenger of Peace. Through her work with the wild chimpanzees in the Tanzania Gombe Stream National Park, this ethologist and the conservationist redefined what it means to be human and established the best practices for behavioral research. She was also named as a UN Messenger of Peace and is an honorary member of the World Future Council. I would now request our team to please play her video message.
Hello, this is Jane Goodall. It makes me really happy to know that the Jane Goodall Institute India has been in partnership with the International Conference on Sustainable Education, that's ICSE, ever since its inception in 2019. This fifth ICSE, with its theme of educating for climate action and sustainability, is taking place at a really crucial time, because if the world fails to take urgent action to reduce greenhouse gases and protect the natural world, we're doomed. We're already in the midst of the sixth great extinction, and humans are not exempt. Education can play a really important role, not only by creating awareness of the problem, but by explaining what we can do to start turning things around and at least slowing down the warming of the globe and the loss of biodiversity. We know what needs to be done. Indeed, there's much talk about this from those in leadership positions in governments and corporations, but what is needed is action, and all of us can do our bit. ICSE is playing a crucial role in raising awareness and helping people understand the importance of fighting for sustainability. Indeed, these conferences have been at the very forefront of stressing the need for education of this sort and stressing the importance of helping students and everyone else to understand that they as individuals and groups of individuals can play a major role in protecting the planet for their future and for generations to come, before it's too late. The Jane Goodall Institute, through our Roots and Shoots program, has been empowering young people of all ages to roll up their sleeves and choose projects to improve things for people, for animals, and for the environment. This program is in over 65 countries and growing fast in India. I would like to congratulate all those who've helped to organize this conference and welcome all participants. I hope everyone makes the most of this great opportunity to meet new people, to exchange ideas, and to share practical solutions to the climate crisis. And I hope that many of you will make new friends, new partnerships, and that participants will leave with renewed determination to play their part in working for a more sustainable future for all life on planet Earth. Good luck and goodbye from me.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your enlightening message. We yet again are privileged to present a video message from another distinguished luminary, Dr. Rajendra Singh, an Indian water conservationist and environmentalist who is widely recognized as the Waterman of India. He is a Marxese awardee and runs an NGO called Tarun Bharat Sangh, which was founded in 1975. I would request our team to please play the video.
Which foundation के इस 5वें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सम्मेलन में आए सभी साथियों को बधाई, खासकर प्रदीप बर्मन जी जो इस सम्मेलन को पिछले 5 वर्षों से सतत रूप में कॉन्टिन्यूटी में चला रहे हैं, इनके परिवार को और हमारे मित्र रामबूज जी को बधाई कि आपने ये जो पेरिस एग्रीमेंट 2015 था उसकी लाइन में जो एक्शन ओरिएंटेड काम है उसको आगे बढ़ाने की एक बड़ी पहल की है। ये सम्मेलन हमारे पेरिस एग्रीमेंट को कैसे धरती पर एक्ट करके ला सकते हैं उसमें सफलता पाएगा ऐसी मैं आशा करता हूँ, क्योंकि ये सम्मेलन पूर्ण रूप से क्लाइमेट से जुड़ा है। इसलिए इस सम्मेलन में हम पेरिस एग्रीमेंट को हर तरह से धरती पर लाने की कोशिश करें। धरती पर आएगा तो इस प्रकृति में जो अब विनाश हो रहा है और उस विनाश के कारण सतत बिगाड़ हो रहा है वो बिगाड़ रुक सकेगा। इसलिए मोबिस फाउंडेशन ने ये जो क्लाइमेट पर एक विद्या का काम शुरू किया है, क्लाइमेट की विद्या को समझने, उसका एहसास करने और उसका आभास सबको हो सके, इसमें जो पहल की है इसके लिए मैं आप सबको बधाई देता हूँ। मैं ज़रूर स्टॉकहोम में हूँ पर मेरा मन आपके सम्मेलन के साथ पूर्ण रूप से जुड़ा है, क्योंकि मैं इसके आरंभ से लेकर और अभी तक बराबर हर सम्मेलन में भागीदार होता रहा हूँ। इसलिए मेरी इच्छा है कि आप सब इस सम्मेलन को ज़रूर हिस्टोरिकल सम्मेलन बनाएं, जिससे लोग कह सकें कि इस सम्मेलन में तय किए गए निर्णय हम क्रियान्वित कर सकें। एक बार फिर आपको बधाई। जय हिंद।
I would now read the English translation of the video message of Dr. Rajendra Singh, and I quote, "I hope this message finds you all in high spirits and filled with the enthusiasm that comes with working towards a sustainable future. It is with great pleasure that I extend my heartfelt congratulations to all the friends gathered here at the 5th International Conference on Sustainability Education. A special round of applause goes to Mr. Pradeep Burman, whose unwavering commitment has seen this conference run continuously for the past 5 years. I also want to extend my congratulations to the entire Mobius family and my dear friend, Dr. Ram Booj. Your efforts in conducting this excellent sustainability conference in line with the Paris Agreement are nothing short of remarkable. This conference serves as a wonderful platform to support the Paris Agreement and, more importantly, to turn its goals into a living reality. The realization of the Paris Agreement in our compass, guiding us towards positive actions to mitigate the climate disasters. The Mobius Foundation's initiative is all about bringing knowledge to the forefront, empowering us to take positive actions. Though I find myself in Stockholm physically, my heart and soul are fully connected to this conference, as I have been associated with it since its inception in 2019. Today, I express my sincerest wish for this conference to go down in history as a turning point, a catalyst for change that delivers tangible outcomes to be acted upon. Let us seize this opportunity to make a lasting impact and create a better world for future generations. Once again, congratulations to all of you for your dedication and commitment to sustainability. Jai Hind. With that, once again, can we have a great round of applause for Dr. Rajendra Singh, the Waterman of India. Moving forward, I will now take this opportunity to invite Mr. Kartikeya Sarabhai, the founder director of Center for Environmental Education, as well as the trustee of the Sabarmati Ashram Preservation and Memorial Trust and of the Physical Research Laboratory, to deliver a keynote address. Now, I'd read a brief profile of him. As a leading environmental educator and a community builder, he is well known for his initiatives on the greening of India's formal education system and initiatives for the biodiversity education. He has been facilitated with Padma Shri in 2012, which in India is among the highest honors. I would also like to tell you, I am sure Dr. Rambuj also mentioned, but I'd once again tell it, that he carries the great legacy of his father, Mr. Vikram Sarabhai, the name behind the landing of Chandrayaan, Vikram lander on the unexplored side of the moon. So we are indeed grateful to have you here with us, and with that, a great round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, and it's wonderful to be back at ICSE, and congratulations to Dr. Pradeep Barman ji, Rambuj, and the entire team for the sustaining this one through difficult years, because COVID was in between. And when COVID came, the question was, do we cancel the conference or not? And in fact, we didn't. And there was this wonderful virtual space which was created in which we all participated. But it's, having said that, it's nice to be here in person. Atul Bagaiji, who, with great respect, it's wonderful to have you as the chief guest for today's function. He's leading the UNEP initiative, and with him, we have the privilege of working on circularity, especially in the textile, and of course, very importantly, the Tide Turner program with youth. Sam Barrett and Gayatri are also here today. And there are many more exciting, as I look around the room, partners and people who are doing such wonderful work, which we'll get to see over the next 2 days. There was some mention about the Vikram lander, and I was sort of asked some questions about it. And I said, I asked children, what are people looking for when they land on the moon? What's this great thing? Why do we go to the South Pole? Why not somewhere else? And then some people say, it's because there's a possibility of water on the South Pole. So why water? Oh, it's essential for life. You cannot have it without that. I said, are they looking for gold or silver or some other material? And no, they're looking for water. And I said, when we go all the way to the moon, and every Indian and everyone in the world gets excited about the possibility of that drop of water, which is the essence of life, how come we so carelessly treat the water which we have on this planet and forget that life, to sustain life, we need air and water and certain essentials, the biodiversity of it, and which we have. So I just hope that going to the moon gives us a better perspective on what is Earth all about. And let us transpose children and everyone else to that perspective, saying, look, the things we need to live are things which we've been gifted with. And it's this delicate balance which we are completely shaking up. When we, in a sense, started talking about environment for that matter, but now climate change, it used to be a subject which was theoretical. People saw climate change as something which affects others, but no longer so. People in Europe see droughts and floods and fires, which they used to otherwise read about in the paper or what happened in the developing countries. But this is happening now. In our own countries, we have severe rainfall. I came from Ahmedabad yesterday after 3 days when we couldn't see the sun. It was so nice when the plane went above the cloud and you could finally see the sun. But rains which are completely out of season, and what it does to crops for a country which is so agriculture dependent. What does it do to so many people who don't have a proper house, who live in low-lying areas? Just the sheer misery. But I think people are now using the climate change word, whether rightly or wrongly. Everything they see which is some unusual, people do recognize that something different is happening. It's not one odd year when things are different. It's the pattern. The hottest years are the last few years. The hottest month ever was July. We don't have to look at history. We are looking at 2 months ago. that it is the hottest month. So I think that sense has finally come. The problem is that there is no quick fix for it. It's not something we can quite fix the way you do some other problems. We just had World Ozone Day a few days ago. And ozone was something which you could still deal with by taking policy actions and getting, say, industry to change CFCs to HCFCs and now to some other substances. But climate change is not like that. And as was mentioned, Rajendra Singh ji mentioned the 2015 Paris Agreement, the conference, Rambuj and others mentioned how lifestyles get affected here, how this whole thing is connected with lifestyles, and it is not something which you can just switch off the manufacturing of one single substance like CFCs and you will get a solution. This is something truly requiring the participation of every person on this planet with whatever little or more you can do towards this goal. And even then, the goal which you will achieve will not happen tomorrow because there is a momentum to it. You can be lucky if we can arrest it over the next 20 years. But it is not something which I can suddenly start saying, okay, I'm good today, will tomorrow be okay? No, it won't be okay. If you're good for the next 10 years, 15 years and change that lifestyles, yes, the planet will start changing. The two things mentioned in this conference, education for climate action and sustainability. And it goes with the education for sustainable development, shortened to ESD. And I've always, in all forums, in UNESCO and others, Joyce, when I'm there, I said, it's wonderful that you write education for sustainable development, knock off one word and say ESD. But that fourth word which you omitted, which is the for, is in fact critical. It's not education about sustainability. It's not education about climate change. It's education for climate change and things. It's an education which is to act as a driver for change. And that is the education we're talking about now. It's no longer just learning about some event which will happen irrespective of how we act and how we behave. It's an event which we can all participate in trying to mitigate, participate in getting ourselves more adapted, our communities more adapted to the possible impacts which we are likely to get. And that is a very different type of education. With UNESCO, we have the privilege just now of looking at what climate change education is doing in this country, where we are and where we need to go. And with UNICEF and others on Teacher, there's some wonderful new materials which various organizations are developing. Karuna Singh just gave me a wonderful new little book on teacher education on climate change, and you see materials coming out. Dr. Barucha and we have been discussing about how under the new thing we can use the opportunity of compulsory education on environment in India at the higher education level, meeting the new challenges. Because he has got a wonderful new textbook, we've got things, but how do you get them? And it is this thing of action which is important at all levels. Many of you must know that we have been talking about something called the handprint. Just like we talked about the footprint here, the handprint is representing what action you take, and it was a concept coming out of a school in Hyderabad, little girls of 10-year-old saying, why do we talk about how we tread, but why not also talk about what we can do? And that's that handprint. And that handprint is wonderful. It's going, people are using it all over the world as a positivity. And it's that positivity which we see in ICSE. ICSE is about solutions. ICSE is about partnerships, as was rightly said. Jane talked about two things, action and partnership. And we have many partnerships, and we look forward to several others which will happen. But education for sustainability meets the other passion of Dr. Burman also, which is population. Population is a word which many people in sustainability globally are shy away from it. It's politically too difficult to talk about population. If you see the SDGs, you don't see a very direct mention on population. Most sustainability discussions try and shy away from this elephant in the room, which is the population. And interestingly, population is something which you don't tackle head on. India did try at one stage it had such a campaign of sterilization, and thus it hit back, and our program couldn't last for the next maybe 10, 20 years. We couldn't even talk about population control. But the best thing is that the one single, well-documented, researched information which we have is that educating people, educating children, especially the girl child, is the best thing you can do for a number of things, including population. Population comes down in Indian states. You just correlate Indian states' women's literacy with population rate of increase, and you immediately see the relationship. So education, which is what this whole conference is about, is for sustainability, climate change, but also for population. And I think Pradeep ji has dared, if you like, to force the sustainability people to say, look at this issue as well, don't forget it. But the good news is that, at least in India, the rate is coming down. There are many states which have almost reached replacement level, and that's really good. Now, the Prime Minister has taken a number of initiatives, and why this conference becomes very important at this stage. Realizing that India is now in a position of huge responsibility. It's the most populous nation in the world, and it will remain that way. It's got a very large issue of development. It's got a development channel. The per capita is still very low. He set a target of 2047, which is when India completes 100 years, to be a developed country, and 2070 to be a net zero country. This is the target before us. Not an easy target. But what is that? What is 2047? Do we just jump to something which we see elsewhere? Because most of those development models are in fact heavily fossil fuel based. And they are not only fossil fuel based because of the way they produce electricity, but their very conception of what a city looks like, what is good living, everything is based on high energy use and high vehicle use, and then it does. So we are looking for something else. Way back in 92, when that first conference was held at Rio, I remember my colleague Beena Raghunathan and myself, we were writing this report for India, which became the official report. And at that time, one of the sentences was, the challenge for development is not how to get there, but how not to. How do you get away from a development model, which is what we see in every movie, what we see in everything else? How do you get to a different development? How do you get to an alternative model? And that is where education comes in, not as information, but as critical thinking, as SDG 4.7 talks about. What we need to do is not give more information per se. Information, first of all, you can't give everything, because what you give today might be outdated in another 2 days or another 2 weeks or 2 months. What you need is the ability to look at information, to take out this huge amount of fake information which you are getting, to be able to discern education information, to be able to critically look at it, and to develop solutions which are unique, because the solution in one place is not the best solution in another. So it's not a one bullet. We are not looking for magic bullets. We are looking for the magic minds, if you like, where everyone has to do it. And that is the purpose of this conference. So we look forward to this conference very much, to what it will do. There are a number of sessions, as Rambuji has said, and it is something which I myself was looking at this schedule, and I said, but I want to go to this one and this one and this one as well, and they are all happening at the same time. But of course, the reality is that you have to finish it in 2 days, because there's just so many goodies here of what we would like to do, and I hope there is a way of finding out, Rambuji, as usual, of of finding out what happened in other sessions as well. So looking forward to a great conference, great interactions with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your invaluable insights. Moving forward, I will now take this opportunity to invite Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi, who is also our guest of honor, to address us all with his words. He is an environmentalist, a green activist, and a founder of Himalayan Environmental Studies and Conservation Organization, also known as HESCO, whose tireless efforts in the realm of the environmental conservation have garnered him several accolades, including Padma Shri in 2006 and Padma Bhushan in 2020. His work majorly includes developing sustainable technologies that are inclusive economy for ecosystem development. Can we have a great round of applause, please, for Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you, Ram Bhujji. I would just take what Kartikeya ji has said now recently. I come from a place called Himalayas. Everybody must be knowing this. And when we were landing on moon, we had a disaster that took whole Himachal Pradesh. You must all be knowing about it. So that was the one point of time I was wondering, without knowing your own earth well, you're trying to invade other planets, subplanets. That's one question that came in our mind. The reason was very obvious. We are part of the country. Himalayas have been feeding 18 countries and 65% population of this country. And unfortunately, the statehood, of course, was granted to us long back. I come from Uttarakhand. But, you know, the problem is that we have yet failed to understand the ecology inclusive economy or so-called development. We have been we don't have as such the plan and the policy based on climatic situation, the advantage and other limiting factors. What we have been doing in Delhi, another part of the country, we also had taken exactly the same and similar parameter up on the mountain. How could we deprived of development? We also wanting all time, and that was the one reason. We had been shouting for a separate state. The reason was that remote villages do not have a road to go. They are not enjoying what their counterparts, urbans, are taking. That was one reason, but unfortunately, the true picture of the climate-related development strategy or the ecology-inclusive strategy of a particular region, unfortunately, lacking in this country. Now, let me begin with sustainability is one word we have been using 1972 onward. If you look into why this sustainability word had to come, in 1950-60 there was an eco-awareness across the globe and particularly in north part of the world. Americans and many important nations had begun to be serious about that something is wrong somewhere, and in 1972 Stockholm gathering was the result of exactly what had been happening in those beginning year when we begin to realize something is wrong somewhere. In 1972 we begin with raising a voice, sustainability. 50 years, half the century. Now let us, and COP 27 and 28 is likely to come. One mentioned 1992 Rio gathering also. What is sustainable ever since is a question. Do we have our soil, water, air, forest sustainable ever since? I don't think. Because even that fighting that we have been doing in international gathering, my part of development, naturally the developing countries have been saying that their share of development is still there, and the North says, well, what we have been suffering, you should not. So that story have been repeated all time. So many agreements had come, but how many of us have followed is again a question. The sustainability in education can only be an awareness, I would add to, possibly can bring us back to the place. And you must be knowing that 98% chances are there that by 2030 we will be 1.5, I mean the temperature will go up by that. Now with its slight temperature rise, which many people must be thinking that from 2013 to 22, air in between, it was hardly 1.15, and it is said that 1.1 is because of human activities across the globe. Now the question is, if this is going to happen, and despite, because education is a word which we really need to understand, to watch what makes you independent is an education. It's a learning from past, train you for living in the present, and the liking for future is an education. So if you come in the context of the ecology and environment, it is very dismaying, unfortunately. Now if in education, which regular, we have been imparting, making you materialistic, consumer society, a society which is consuming. And unfortunately, since beginning in India, ever since they became independent, we had not been very serious in the beginning. The reason was economic crisis was there, and that we was all time been working industrialization and to improve our so-called GDP, which is everything now up and down is GDP. Everything is GDP. Even you cannot imagine that even if a huge disaster comes, they have been matching it, whether what the impact is on GDP. That's where we live now, and we were also after India in Indian context, that industrialization can only bring us the ecological relief, economic relief, and that happened. Of course, we are likely to be 5 trillion economy that has been claimed by the government, but at the same time 5 trillion plastic pieces are floating on the sea and the ocean is not of much concern to all of us. Now the sustainability, the reason is we do not know. We have come from a country where the development world had never been there. If you go into your holy books or anything which you have available in 400, 500, 600 ago, there has never been a word development. There had been a word called prosperity, which is very inclusive. What you need everything, not only the materialism also has been the part of it, but inclusiveness is there in the prosperity. You need a water, soil, everything, and that makes you, the word here in Indian context was the prosperity. Unfortunately, we are all racing towards development. Let me tell you, there have been 1970 onward, 1990 onward, about 12,000 serious disasters in the world. And also let me tell you also fact, the America, which is said to be, well, most important in developed countries in the world, highest in disaster, second highest was the China, and third is in India. And at the same time, if you look into the carbon emission, highest from America, second China, and third is India. If you match it, your so-called development with the ecosystem, then you will know that. I have been wondering, we live in a village, that what unfortunately, you see any disaster comes, you also make a study, that who are the more sufferer? The rural people, community, because the urban somehow manage everything. But the rural, unfortunately, ultimately, are the sufferer, rather right from the Libya to the Himalayas. You know, the flood that had taken the more than 30,000 people in the Libya, and what has happened in the Himachal Pradesh, in the Himalaya. See, you see, the nature is to be understood. We know the science how to go to the Mars, and we are struggling for the sun. But at the same time, science of nature is not understood yet. And that would have been the part of our education. Because once we are training for mechanical engineering, civil engineering, but unfortunately, the ecosystem approach, nature science are poorly understood in this country, and that was one reason. Kartikeya Sarabhai ji, it was we, when the last education minister was there, we told him to bring IKS, Indian Knowledge System, and what contains in Indian Knowledge System was living with the nature, and that various verticals that we had there converge ultimately to so-called sustainability, which Stockholm has given. You see, our knowledge system, Indian, I have not been wondering if we can become a guru of this world by making 5 trillion economy, but I think I'm quite sure about it. Living with the nature can only be learned from the Indian way and Bharat knowledge and science, which I strongly, because I'm a student of ecology and environment. I know that India and the Bharat has many knowledge system how to live with the nature, and that's what has been paining us all time. Well, Himalaya is suffering. I'm to tell you that, and let me tell you the way the disaster are taking us, the flash flood and flood all time, whole Himalaya will be down in the plain. It will be there in the Haryana, Punjab, or in the Bihar and Jharkhand and Uttar Pradesh, because one after the peaks are breaking, you know, after the flat, and the most of the soil is coming down. What do you think will happen to you? We have forgotten, now whenever we speak now, we say we want to aware you. It won't be Himalaya would mean you won't have the water, you won't have soil, and so-called green revolution or aligned different development activities won't be there in any case. So I think sustainability, which can bring a sustainability and the awareness is the high time. We have to be very serious about it. And can we imagine, if I ask you a question, where do we stand economically in this world? You have immediately so many database that India, 3 trillion economy likely to happen. Do you have any yardsticks to measure where do we stand ecologically? Unknowingly, weather forecast is now no more, you know, say they do not fail forecasting the weather now, because everything, western disturbance, I mean that western disturbance to this western disturbance have taken all of us. Now reason is, that was one reason we begin advocating in my state I have come from, that we are an ecological state. We do not know your GDP per capita income that you try to bring through the industrialization and so on. There has to be one gross environment product. Let us know in the state, in the given year, what did you do in the forest to improve the forest? Quantify that. Water that you were able to harvest, that rainfall on with us, and the quality of where we were able to improve, and the soil that we had unfortunately made hazardous by using the chemical fertilizer, how much organic you were able to make. All together with these 4 pillars give us GEP. We do not know if my Mana Gaon village get anything in terms of economy, good economy, 3 trillion economy, per capita income, but if a good GEP is there, he will have a water, soil, air, and that makes your life. That's the most important today. And Ram Bhujji, which I have been wondering now, thinking that people like Kartikeya Sarabhai, who are already there, but we really need to have a national network, because nothing is going to happen otherwise. See, every one of us is almost consuming a lot of things, but the principle of nature says consumer must be a contributor. Now whomsoever consuming more, supposed to contribute, whether internationally or nationally. If that principle works, I think there are few chances. But let me tell you, hardly 5 chances. International studies say there are hardly 5% chances of our coming back. If that is going to be the scenario, awareness for the future generation can only help them the mistake we committed, they can get rid of it, otherwise they will also be repeat the kind of education that we are imparting. They will all be more materialistic, and flood disaster will all time be taking us. And where I don't think the planet like Earth, we cannot imagine anywhere in the world. You cannot go to the moon and Mars that all used together have been clapping when we were landing. Please think of your Earth also. And you also be together when you can clap when we land on the moon. Why don't you be together for your own Earth, which give you life, which give you the survival, and that is your existence. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you so much, sir. That was indeed motivational and something to think about. Once again, a great round of applause, please. I will now be taking this opportunity to invite Ms. Donna Goodman, our guest of honor. She's the founder and executive director of the Earth Child Institute, an international not-for-profit organization working in more than a dozen countries, including Brazil, China, India, Ghana, and the US. Her international development work has been widely recognized and published by the UN partners, and she has been a champion of the rights and participation of child and young people in the environment sector in over 60 countries for more than 25 years. Can we have a great round of applause for Ms. Donna Goodman? And can we please have you here to address us all? Also, you're looking beautiful in an Indian sari.
I've brought my water because I have a little scratch in my throat, so thank you all for your patience. First of all, I want to just thank Dr. Rambuj and all of the organizers and my esteemed panelists for doing this important work and for having me here. And I would also like to really congratulate all of you who are Indians for all of the amazing work that we've been hearing about in the US with your moon landing and the G20. And since the first time I came here to India in 1999, it brings tears to my eyes to see what you're all doing. It's amazing, so thank you. When I first came to the UN in 2001, 2002, I joined an NGO group on sustainable development. And it struck me, they had so many subcommittees. There was a committee on water. There was a committee on peace. There was a committee on trees. And it just struck me as someone that came from the private sector as such a crazy thing. Like, how can we possibly have peace without water? How can we possibly have trees without water? The water needs the trees as well. So at that time, we merged the committee on water with peace. Even in those days, people were having forced migration because the water tables were getting lower. So I wrote the first book for the UN in 2003 called Everybody Counts, Every Drop Matters. And then UNICEF called and asked me to write this game, and it was an interactive online game called Water Alert. And it was brought upon by the Adolescent Development and Participation Group, connection with water and sanitation. Why am I telling you this? Because the sectors have, I believe, played a part in bringing us to this place where we are today. And when I was researching the Water Alert game, we had to have adventures for the children who are playing the game. We also wrote it with children in many countries around the world. And one challenge was a drought. One challenge was a flood. One challenge were the toilets being overflowed into the flood. And in those days, we could already see, and the player in the game could only choose one of those things to address. And it was something to see, even 20 years ago, that we had to choose between one or the other, or learn a new way of being, a holistic way of being that addresses all of those things together. So this is what I've really been working on. And at that time, so it was 2003, and I said, we need to start looking at climate change. And they thought I was radical. And they didn't want it in water and sanitation, WASH. They didn't want it in adolescent participation. They didn't want it in education. So I was moved around from different sectors for many, many years. In 2006, we brought UNICEF to the first climate change conference in Bali. And at that time, the climate change convention that came out of the Rio Agenda 21 did not have a constituency group for children or youth. So that was the first thing that we did, is we worked together with colleagues in UNESCO and UNICEF and UNFCCC to work with some countries to get a youth and children's constituency. Today, they're the ones that are moving the ball. Most of all, the ones we read in the news that are getting things done. Earthchild Institute, the NGO that I founded, has, I'm not going this year to the COP in Dubai, but we've accredited a young man, 16 years old, who has already come up with a 3D modeled diagnostic tool for malaria and started a network of kids in something like 60 countries. I have it written here somewhere, but I've left my notes. And these kids, I believe, and I've always believed, that they're coming in for this time in the world. So what they need from us are the tools and the confidence to do what they're here to do. And so for me, what that has meant after years of writing curriculum and policy papers and research and working with kids in more than 60 countries is that we can't get there fast enough. My sense of urgency, as I'm sure all of your sense of urgency, is that we have to do it 20 years ago. It's happening. I used to say to people, like, if we all stop driving our cars today, it would still be happening to a degree, because the wheel is already moving. But, you know, we can slow it down, and, you know, I believe that the Earth is just fine. I went to Alaska a few years ago, and I saw where the glaciers were melting, and the forest ecosystem that developed where the icebergs and glaciers had been was something like out of this world. So the Earth will like redecorate herself. It's us as humankind that really need to fight for our own way of being, in a holistic way of being, not where there's water, drop of water, or how are we going to fight over the water, or move elsewhere, but all of those things at the same time, and being really connected to one another. Yes, this Matthew Cheng that I was telling you about, 16-year-old delegate to the climate change conference, he started something called a climate garden, which is with 450 schools in 13 countries, 16 years old in California. It's incredible. But at the same time, you know, I live in Florida in the United States, and I'd say like probably close to half the people don't even believe that climate change is real. And I live on the intercoastal waterway, and I go down to the water and there's fishing nets in the mangrove trees, and you know, I go out on the weekends and pick things up. Okay. And so we have the awareness raising amongst ourselves as adults and honoring the children by empowering them with the skills and the knowledge that they need to do what they're here to do and to believe on themselves. And in closing, you know, so I have chosen with the urgency to move into fiction. And I'm writing a series of books called The Eco Masters, A Planet in Peril, which involves 13-year-old girls around the world, starting in New York and Uganda and India and Laos. This next book, we're adding in someone from the UK and someone from Patagonia and Argentina. That's how we know it's time to stop. And with the Eco Masters, my hope is to go from books to interactive digital media. So maybe, excuse me, a Netflix show where kids can make decision points and adults. Excuse me. And I'm moving into some earth healing in closing. I was in Rishikesh last week when I got here to India, and I think I got a little cold there. So there's a new technology from New Zealand, and we're working on quantum scalar technology because I believe that's how we know ourselves. Excuse me. Oh, thank you. I dropped my throat lozenges. So in closing, in English, the same letters that spell earth spell heart. I'm going to close with that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You have surely left a food for thought for all of us, and we're really grateful for your presence here with all of us. Moving forward, I would now be inviting Mr. Praveen Garg to address us all. He's the current president of the Mobius Foundation. He's a specialist in public policy in South Asian context with a focus on finance, law, and environment. With 33 plus years of work experience across various areas and levels in the Indian government, he has handled district administration to spearheading numerous reforms in the Financial Markets Division of the Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance. Can you have a great round of applause for Mr. Praveen Garg?
A very good morning. I think still we are at 11:15. So, Honorable Chief Guest and my senior colleague from Administrative Service, Shri Atul Bagaiji, Honorable Chairperson, Shri Pradeep Barmanji, Donna Goodman, Shri Kartike Sarabhai, Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi, other esteemed, Dr. Bhuj, esteemed delegates, media, ladies and gentlemen, and the young crowd and the students from the different schools and our school as well. One thing which I wanted to start with, many people wonder that why our foundation is called Mobius Foundation. When I also joined Mr. Burman, so I also thought, why is it Mobius? Then I did little search, and I was very pleasantly surprised that it comes from a mathematician whose name was August Fernandez Mobius, Austrian mathematician, and he invented, I won't say invented, he created a band which is called Mobius band. And if you see our logo, it also depicts that band. I think that will be, because a lot of people will wonder why Mobius. And when I was about to join this organization, then because I had a lot of exposure in the capital market, so they're Mobius partners, they're Mobius, Marcus Mobius capital funds and all. So they thought I'm, again, going to the market side. And this is the non-market side or the NGO side. So if you see the beauty of this Mobius strip, of course I'm not carrying a strip, but if you create it, you have to join on the reverse side. Then if you run your finger over the surface of this strip, you will experience a fascinating phenomenon. Your finger ends up back at a starting point. It doesn't break. And covering both the sides, not one side. One side, of course, you can have. And ever lifting your finger, and this is simply our philosophy of our organization, which is a concept of sustainability, circularity. So that's how we have derived, and I'm so thoughtful of Mr. Burman, who I believe he's also a kind of a mathematician. And I would also like to tell something about him. When we were creating our think tank, we have created a think tank recently, and I said, why don't we put the name as Pradeep Burman think tank, a Burman think tank or something. He said, no, it won't be done. It is only think tank, Mobius Foundation think tank. Now that time, something which struck me very strongly, that you have Tata Trust, you have Melinda Gates Foundation, you have Rockefeller, you have, all kind of dharmshalas. Everything is named about somebody, about one own person or family member. So this is something unique about this trust, that it is not named. It is named after a 17th century Austrian mathematician who discovered Mobius band, and that band represents circularity and continuity in the whole system, which is the essence of the nature. So this is a little thought on that. And then to score the sustainability, as other speakers also mentioned, there's 17 SDGs, and SDG 4 emphasizes on quality education. It calls for ensuring inclusive, equitable, quality education and promoting lifelong learning opportunities for all. So the whole conference is about ESG, and this is SDG 4. Now if you compare it to the Indian context, recently we had National Education Policy in 2020, and which also says quality education is a base of sustainable development. So Indian system is also saying that there should be quality education for sustainable development. India has, whatever people may have thoughts, but India had a very well-defined architecture and structure for the educational system. We have very well-defined education boards, CBSE, ICSE. We have very well-defined forums like NCERT or SCRT, which design the syllabus. And I have no doubts on that. People may have a difference of opinion that, one thing is missing or two things is missing. But the greening of the syllabus, in my perspective, would be nearly 80%, if not 100%. So this is, it has become an integral part. That's what I would think. I've not done the research. Of course, recently we contributed for a research by UNESCO to see the status of the sustainability education in India in the syllabus. But I have little doubts it would be there. There will be difference of opinion. People will say that you include this, delete this. But broadly, 70 to 80% it will be integral part and of the syllabus. Now, why part of the syllabus? If it becomes part, SDGs becomes a part of the syllabus, then the young minds they will learn about SDGs, and it will become part of their learning, starting from class, whatever the primary classes, till the college. So now the important thing which comes into picture is how they are taught about it. Now this is the critical factor in my understanding, that how they are taught. It is there in the syllabus. It is how the pedagogy is evolved, that they are taught properly, and it becomes part of their life. And the mission which we are talking about recently is Mission Life, which says lifestyle for environment, and which has been launched recently, which talks about mindfulness and deliberate utilization of resources, and it promotes sustainable lifestyles. So it is going to be part of the syllabus. National Education Policy is saying that, NCERT is there, 30 odd states and union territories have SCERT, which will incorporate, they have advisory committees. Then the role of the teacher becomes, and if it is taught properly, then the role of the teacher becomes very, very important. And I would also like to quote Abdul Kalam ji. He said, the ignited minds of the youth, ignited minds of the youth is the most powerful resource on the earth. So to tackle this challenge of climate change, or the climate challenge, or climate justice, whatever name you may give it, we have to ignite the minds of the youth, especially the students from primary class to the college. And how to do it? To incorporate in the syllabus. It is there, 80%, more or less. Now, how the teachers have to teach them, that's very important. And I would also like to say that the majority of the schools, we had a figure where we were saying that majority of the schools, and in essence, we should say that we are catching them young. If we ignite the minds of the young generation when they're in the school with the SDGs, then we are catching them young. And we are answering, or we are addressing the issue of climate change. Now, I'll put in a other context, and being practicing economist, that everyone is talking of GDP. 2047, we are going to be, 10 trillion or something. And so that there's going to be a lot of, manufacturing activities. And if you see our per capita income, in US terms, it is hardly $4,000. If you see US, it is $60,000. If you see China, it is $40,000. Our 50% of the population of the second or the lower half has only 3% of the wealth. So at the bottom of the pyramid, as management grew, C.K. Prahlad used to say unlocking of the bottom of the pyramid, which is bound to happen. So when that unlocking happens, there would be a lot of strain on the resources, and the sustainability would be a major issue. So we have to ensure how we meet the aspirations of this bottom of the pyramid. We cannot deny the development to them. See the per capita income. Developed countries have already achieved that. Now they can always say that you restrict your carbon footprint. Don't use fossil fuel. And recently I've been told that the old thermal power plants which were dormant or which were classified as non-performing assets are being bought again, because our consumption is going up. Electricity consumption is going up. Of course, we have a renewable target for 2030 of 200 gigawatt. But in spite of that, now there is a conundrum that there's a huge population at the bottom of the pyramid which is unlocking, which wants a quality of life, standard of living, and if we do that, then what? Then there's a disaster for all of us. And this country is going to be having a lot of disasters virtually every day or every month. Now the answer lies on that. Unless we integrate all these things into our education system, and I would say that I see the public schools, called private schools here, or generally the urban schools, have little bit integration or more or less integration. They are celebrating all kind of days, so that it's going in their thinking. So it will be reflected in the lifestyles, but not the rural schools. And you will be surprised that recently we did some survey we are taking up. There's a 100 schools program which we are going to take up for, from the foundation. And we did survey of schools. We have taken another foundation to do that. So there's a need assessment survey. It is, if you see the survey, learning outcomes are very poor, very poor. So it means that the schools exist, students are going, teachers are there, but learning outcomes are very poor. In one of the schools, in one of the most backward districts of Madhya Pradesh, and the most primitive tribe of Sariyas, you know, what our person who was doing the test noticed, that a girl, I'll take a few more minutes because let me complete my thoughts. So, sorry for that, but so one of the Sariya tribal girls of class 6th, in a language paper, here it was English, she was just copying the question. If it is A, B, whatever, it was pictography. Class 6th student in the primitive, of a primitive tribe in backward area. And when I was district magistrate 25 years back in a place called Sidi, which that time the HRD minister of Government of India was from that district. And I went for a surprise check. There were complaints of cheating, you know, on the class 10th examination. There, on the eastern side, there were complaints that cheating happens in the schools. And I just stopped at a class 10th boy writing his English answer sheet. He has just written two lines. And that was again pictography. He was just copying A, he didn't know the alphabets. So that's the level. And there are more than 17 lakh government schools. And of course, it will differ from area to area. Western side may be a little better, eastern side may be not so. Or it may be, of course, government schools also have few schools which are called model schools, schools of excellence. But the majority of those schools doesn't have it. They are at the bottom of the pyramid. They are going to rise up. And if it is not in their lifestyle, then we are heading for a disaster. Now, which is the most critical thing in this? I think the most critical thing is the teacher. Who is going to teach them? Now the teacher, why teacher is not doing that? Do we need a teacher's training program? Do we need to train them properly so that SDGs, all these things are imparted to them properly? Or they are not disciplined, they are not accountable? But I must say that I think the chief guest will agree with me. We have conducted so many elections. If you see the Indian elections, they are the best conducted in the world. I have no doubts about it. If you see the US election which happened recently, they were not able to count the votes. But if you see the Indian elections, they are the best. And you know which is the backbone of that election? It is the teachers, school teachers who do it. And they do it in 3 days or 4 days. And your results come out. So I think there's something which is missing in that. And what is that? Commitment, motivation, fairness, justice. Whether when they're posted in a backward area, there's a justice of coming back to some place which is better area. So we have to address all these issues, and I thought I'll put my little thoughts on that with my limited understanding on this subject. But I must have visited, I must tell you, during my posting, I must have visited at least 200 to 300 schools personally. I've seen generally the government schools, private schools are less. So this is how I think the solution lies there, how to motivate the teachers, especially the government school teachers, And they are not badly paid. At times they are highly paid compared to the private school teachers. So motivate them. Now, there can be a number of, one is to recognize them. We don't recognize them, we have to recognize them. They are doing a great job. And if there is some kind of injustice to them, to address those issues and training them. So that's the key if we want to address this issue. Otherwise, unlocking will happen with 150 crore population of this country and 50% of the population below the second half of the pyramid. They have to unlock, they have aspirations, they also want to have ACs, they want to have good cars, or at least a decent car or decent house. So we have to address that issue, and for that, I hope this conference comes out with some recommendations for the civil society as well as for the policy makers, so that that happens. And civil society has to do something, because the politicians, as we know, they are just looking for the next election, how to win the next election. There may be high sounding words. So something has to be done. And who has to do it? All of us have to do it. And for that we need passion, we need commitment and dedication to do it. That's what my understanding of the situation is. Second is, I would also like to highlight that we have recently created a think tank in Mobius Foundation, which is working on climate change financing, on wetlands, on number of topics, and few ideas have emerged recently, especially like we were the first to say there should be tiger bonds. Because if you see the tiger reserves, they're very essential. They're like lungs for the environment. They're deprived of funds. So he said, why don't you raise funds through tiger bonds? Second thing which we are saying is that the state should have greening of their finances. So sovereign green funds, that should be the idea. Wetlands, we are saying they are the like kidneys of the environment. So something needs to be done. We are also trying to take up a wetland to develop that. So these are the few ideas which I thought I'll share with you, and I'll be around. So if there's any other ideas which can be discussed, I wish all the success to this conference. I wish that new ideas come in. I wish certain recommendations come in, which can be shared with the civil society, which can be shared with the policymakers. We can do advocacy, so something concrete comes out of it. And next year when we meet, then we should say that we tried to do this, we succeeded, we tried, we could not succeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Your words inspire the minds of old and youth alike. I would now like to call upon Mr. Pradeep Burman. He's the chairman of the Mobius Foundation. He founded Mobius Foundation in 2015 with the sole objective of promoting environment sustainability, and has inspired us to follow his lead on his dream towards a more sustainable future. Born in a family of innovators and philanthropists, he's the grandson of the founder of the largest Ayurvedic company, Dabur. He imbibed the leadership quality and has always been passionately interested in the social causes. Let us hear some words from this sworn environmentalist and a crusader of sustainability. Can we once again have a great round of applause for Mr. Pradeep Burman.
Thank you. Chief guest, members on the dais, ladies and gentlemen. It is my privilege to welcome you again to the 5th International Conference on Sustainability Education hosted by the Mobius Foundation. As we look back at the previous 4 conferences, we can proudly say that the gathering has become a pivotal event in the realm of sustainability education. Each year, we witness the convergence of brilliant minds, enthusiastic leaders, and passionate evangelists who have come from all corners of the world to share their wealth of knowledge and experience to collectively shape a better future for the planet. Ladies and gentlemen, sustainability education is not merely a topic of discussion, but a call for action. Education has empowered humanity to overcome its greatest challenges. The pace at which one world is changing behooves us to instill our youth with values, knowledge, and skills necessary to tackle the pressing environmental challenges that we are confronted with. Mobius Foundation, working assiduously towards paving a green and sustainable future through its initiative on population stabilization, such as Project Akar, Project Viram, and 100 school education program. Mobius Foundation has long emphasized the need for integrating sustainability in our education curriculum. The same was reiterated at the recent G20 summit, where the mission Lifestyle for Environment, was accentuated as a movement which promotes sustainability and conscious practices and a sustainable way of living. This is only possible through the dissemination of sustainable education. Now, in a lighter vein, if I was to say that the Constitution of India gives each citizen its human rights, and there is a Human Rights Commission. Even animals have the right through their organization, which is SPCA, they have their rights. We depend on nature, but nobody talks about nature's rights. Nature's rights are the most important rights because we depend on them. Were it a crime to poison nature, then I would welcome the criminal code for that crime. There ought to be Nature's Rights Commission where those poisoning the nation would suffer and pay a fine. By hosting this conference for the 5 consecutive years, we have reaffirmed our commitment towards sustainability education and have provided a platform for dialogue and collaboration, thus facilitating the exchange of ideas, innovation, and initiatives to drive positive change. Over the next few days, we will delve into various aspects of sustainability education, from climate change to sustainability innovation to ecosystem restoration and circular economy. Our esteemed speakers will share their expertise, research findings, and success stories, igniting a spark within each participant to become agents of change in our communities. Let us make this 5th anniversary edition of the International Conference on Sustainability a resounding success. Together, let us embark on the transformative journey towards a sustainable future, because the future of humanity, and indeed all of us on earth, depends on us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words. I would now like to welcome and invite our chief guest, Shri Atul Bagai, sir. He's the country head for United Nations Environment Programs, UNEP. Can we have a great round of applause, please? He has decisively led from the front to fulfill its mandate across the climate change, waste and air quality, environmental governance, resource efficiency, healthy and productive ecosystems, and resilience to disasters and conflicts. As a UN veteran, he has spent over 2 decades spearheading challenges assignments in regions across South and Southeast Asia and Pacific regions. So it's an honor to have you here with us. I will now request you to address us.
Good morning, and I face a double tragedy of being the last speaker, and after everything having been said, I was wondering, is there anything that I can add? That's my big problem, and with such a distinguished panel here, I think all the right messages have already been given, so I'm wondering what new can I add to it. And the second tragedy certainly is that the longer I speak, the longer I'll keep you away from the hot tea that is waiting for you outside. So I'll try to be very, very brief, and I'll not let that young girl come here with that message that I have 2 more minutes to wind up. But I wanted to give just 4 or 5 small messages, if they can be called messages. And Rambutji started with the Chandrayaan story, which got carried on by the other panelists also. But I wanted to highlight Kartikeya, who actually taught me environmental education 20 years back, also has a very illustrious mother. And no one is talking about her, everyone is talking about his father. And she actually was one of the best dancers, classical dancer in India. But more important was, she embodied the empowerment of women. And when you talk of education and sustainability, Rambutji, women have to be at the center stage. And I only see one woman on the panel here. I think that needs to change. And and unless we all men realize this very, very important factor, we can make noises, but nothing is going to change as far as education is concerned. The second thing is, certainly we are fighting a triple planetary crisis. And this crisis of climate, the crisis of nature, and the crisis of pollution is something that we are all grappling with. There's also this whole concept of 9 planetary boundaries that was set by a group of 28 scientists in early 2000s. And the latest study shows that we've already transgressed 6 of those 9. So it's actually a problem we are all facing. But then who's to blame for it? And I really admire Anil Joshiji's work and what he said. We have to think about this earth, and we all, and especially my generation, is the one to blame. And I apologize for what we have done to this earth, because I see a lot of youngsters here who are facing the wrath of our misactions. And I think we need to look at this, our generation really needs to look at how we can rectify this mistake that we have committed. And I'm often reminded of one of our champions of earth, Afroz Shah. Some of you may have heard of him. He got the Champions of the Earth Award in 2018, and he does beach cleaning in Warsaw every weekend. And he gets school children to do the beach cleaning. But before he starts that beach cleaning every weekend, he first apologizes to each and every student that the mess that we have created is actually something that they should not be living with it, because they should be here to see a beautiful, pristine beach where they should be playing and not cleaning it up. And I think that apology that he gives from his heart is something that each and every one of our generation needs to look at it. And finally, I would like to add, and I again come back to Anilji. He talked about our traditions, that our knowledge systems, our old knowledge is so much interconnected with nature. When we get up in the morning and we get off the bed and touch the ground, we immediately apologize and seek forgiveness from Mother Earth that my dirty feet are touching her. This is what we've been brought up with. This is so integral to our learning, to our bringing up, to our studying, that we are the ones who are actually have forgotten all those traditions and are now spoiling this Mother Earth. Another very big tradition we have is that we treat our guests as gods, Atithi Devo Bhav. And whenever a guest comes to your house, you would rather feed him first rather than feeding the family members. Through this amazing campaign that Pradeep ji has started, and I remember Rambut ji coming to my office when I joined India in 2018, of talking of joining Mobius Foundation and trying to come up with a sustainability conference like this. And I'm really amazed to see what he has done with Pradeep ji's guidance, and now my colleague Praveen has joined them. This 5th conference, which is coming up over the next 2 days, it will be great if we can add on through our sustainability education one more principle in our lives and in our mindsets, Prakriti Devo Bhav, that nature is God. And if that mindset we can come up with, I think half a battle of sustainability and education is won. I will not take more time because I know everyone wants to have a hot cup of tea, and so am I. Thanks a lot for inviting me, and it's my colleague from Nairobi is here, Sam Barrett, who would be part of these conversations over the next 2 days, and my colleague Gayatri, who works very closely with a lot of partners here. They will be here to give some of more technical issues on sustainability and education. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, sir. And with this, our session for this year is off to a great start with such wonderful words of motivation and some very inspiring people who are here with us. And to add some more energy to this, we are now proud to announce a very special launch of souvenirs. We would now be releasing the conference souvenirs volume. Can we please have it on stage? I'll just check. Can we once again have a great round of applause for the release of the conference souvenirs volume? These steps will now help us support our initiative and drive. We hope all of you help us in our cause with great zeal and eagerness. Once again, a great round of applause. I would like to thank our dignitaries on stage, and I would now call upon Dr. Rambut once again to deliver an end to this inaugural ceremony and give a vote of thanks. Can we please have you here, sir?
I think this is very much just a ritual, but on behalf of all of you, let us give a big hand to our chief guest, Shri Atul Bagai. Sir, really, you inspired everyone. You're like, I think women participants, women delegates must be very happy that you talked about in the context of great Rani Sarabhai, with whom I had the pleasure of interacting, working, and getting her blessings while working with Mr. Sarabhai, Kartikeya Sarabhai. She was truly a humanist, environment and sustainability crusader. The way she used to not only talk but practice, that was exemplary. So thank you, sir, for reminding all of us. To Mr. Pradeep Burman, very inspiring words. Of course, he will be throughout with us, and you all will have opportunities to interact with him and get his words of wisdom throughout on many occasions. Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai is also, he is with us throughout, I think, till the end today. Unfortunately, he has to leave for tomorrow to another conference in South Africa, probably. And Anil Prakash Joshi's inspiring words. He's a man of action. Himalayas, you just heard about him. He is really giving voice to Himalayas that, of course, humanity is exploring the space, but we have to look down towards the mountains, to the oceans, and our own, this beautiful planet, to preserve it, to, as rightly said, the triple planetary crisis that we all have to. So thank you so much. Donna, our own colleague, Mr. Pradeep Garg, he gave a very comprehensive overview of what Mobius stands for and what we are going really to accomplish in days and years to come. And I think I am not going to speak any further, because thank you all for gracing this occasion. I think there are many more things to come. It's very, very comprehensive conference on sustainability education. The only, I would say, international event, I don't, means other experts might agree with me, I don't see anywhere in the world, particularly in India and South Asia, this kind of gathering that you all. So thank you everyone, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. And with that, as a token of respect and appreciation, we would now be giving the memento to our dignitaries on stage. I would be requesting Dr. Ram Bhuj, who's the CEO of Mobius Foundation, to please present a memento to our chief guest, Shri Atul Bagai, sir. Can we have a great round of applause, please? I now request Sir to give a memento to Mr. Pradeep Burman, Chairman of the Mobius Foundation. To Mr. Praveen Garg, who's the President of Mobius Foundation. Can we once again have a great round of applause, please? I now request Sir to give a memento to Ms. Donna Goodman, founder of the Earth Child Institute, USA. I now request Sir to present memento to Dr. Anil Prakash Joshi, founder of HESCO. And now I request Sir to give a memento to Shri Kartikeya Sarabhai, founder director of Center for Environment Education. A great round of applause, please. And now I request Mr. Pradeep Burman, sir, to kindly give a memento to Dr. Ram Bhuj himself. A great round of applause, please. And with that, we have successfully concluded our inaugural ceremony. I would like to thank all the dignitaries on stage for gracing us with their presence. And I request them to join us for a group photograph. And to our audience, we will now take a short tea break. We would reassemble for our next sessions in another 10 to 15 minutes. Once again, I would like to remind all of you that we will reassemble in next 15 minutes so that we can timely begin with our next round of sessions.